By 1900, 17,000 cabooses rode the tail of every freight train in America, sheltering the crews who kept those trains safe with nothing but their eyes. Then railroads realized they could replace all of it, the men, the tradition, the oversight, with a $4,000 censor. The savings were enormous, but what the industry quietly eliminated to save millions may have left a vulnerability no one wants to talk about. In the decades after the Civil War, the American freight railroad was a moving city, and at its tail rode a car unlike any other. The earliest cabooses were nothing more than old boxcars, refitted with a crude desk, a cast-iron stove, and a window cut into the side. These makeshift offices gave conductors a place to manage waybills, log cargo, and eat a hot meal, all while rattling across thousands of miles of track. By 1870, railroads across the country had adopted the caboose as standard equipment, with more than 2,700 in active use. The car's role quickly expanded. It became a shelter from the elements, a lookout post for spotting trouble on the line, and a rolling home for crews on long hauls. Railroad companies soon recognized the value of a dedicated rear car. They began commissioning purpose-built cabooses, each designed with the conductor's needs in mind. The classic wooden caboose featured a raised cupola, a small windowed turret perched on the roof, where a brakeman could scan the length of the train for overheated axles, loose couplers, or shifting loads. Inside, a sturdy desk held the conductor's paperwork, while bunks and a stove offered rest and warmth during overnight runs. Lanterns hung on hooks, ready for flagging a disabled train, and toolboxes carried everything from wrenches to spare fusees. As the railroad network grew, so did the fleet. By the turn of the 20th century, nearly every freight train in America ended with a caboose. These cars became more than just equipment. They were a symbol of the railroad's human side, a place where work, vigilance, and camaraderie met at the end of the line. Inside the caboose, the day began before sunrise. The conductor settled at a battered desk, sorting through stacks of waybills and cargo lists. Each paper carried a story: a shipment of wheat bound for Chicago, a boxcar of coal headed west. Every few miles, the brakeman climbed into the cupola, eyes trained down the endless line of freight cars. He scanned for smoke from an overheated axle, a dragging chain, or a coupler that looked ready to give. Rule books called for visual checks at regular intervals, and the crew kept to the schedule, no matter the weather. Between inspections, the conductor filled out the train register, logging each stop and every inspection. A toolbox sat within arm's reach, packed with wrenches, crowbars, and a battered oil can. If a problem appeared, the brakeman was ready. He could clamber down, dash along the ballast, and apply a handbrake to any car showing trouble. At night, lanterns hung from hooks, glowing red and green, ready for flagging a stopped train or warning an approaching engine. Meals were cooked on a small stove, and bunks folded down for a few hours of rest. The work was relentless, but camaraderie filled the cramped space. Stories were traded over coffee, and every member of the crew knew their role mattered. The caboose was more than a shelter. It was a moving watchtower, a rolling office, and a home away from home. Every task, from paperwork to lookout duty, relied on the judgment and vigilance of the crew, an unbroken chain of human oversight running the length of the train. A small rugged box now rides at the end of nearly every American freight train, known as the end-of-train device, or ETD. This electronic sensor quietly replaced the caboose's most critical jobs. Mounted on the last coupler, the ETD monitors brake pipe pressure with a digital transducer and sends real-time data to the engineer up front. If the air pressure drops, the device can even trigger an emergency brake application. No human hand required. Its telemetry link, operating on a dedicated radio frequency, keeps the locomotive informed about the train's integrity every few seconds, even on mile-long consists. For railroads, the numbers told a simple story. An ETD cost less than $4,000 in the late 1980s. The average payback period was just 1.4 years, thanks to immediate savings in labor, maintenance, and fuel. Union Pacific's pilot program compared 200 ETD-equipped trains to those still using cabooses. The result was a 12% drop in crew costs, a measurable improvement in on-time performance, and no increase in safety incidents. Industry-wide, the switch to ETD units saved an estimated $45 million per year, with each device outlasting multiple cabooses and requiring far less upkeep. From the railroad's point of view, the choice was inevitable. The ETD delivered hard savings and streamlined operations, all while meeting new federal safety standards. The human presence at the end of the train, once seen as essential, became an expensive tradition. In the eyes of corporate finance, the caboose was no longer a necessity, but a relic of a slower, less efficient era. Union leaders gathered in meeting halls and on picket lines, warning that no machine could ever replace a crewman's eyes or judgment at the end of a freight train. The Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers and the United Transportation Union pressed their case in Washington, calling for strict limits on how and when railroads could retire the caboose. They argued that the car was more than a workplace. It was a safety net, a place where vigilance and experience protected lives and cargo alike. Yet, in December 1982, the Federal Railroad Administration published a new rule in the Federal Register. Under Title 49 of the Code of Federal Regulations, Section 229.267, railroads could now run freight trains without a caboose, provided they installed an approved end-of-train device and could prove it offered equivalent safety. This single regulation, known as Federal Register Document Number 8212039, swept away more than a century of tradition in a few lines of legal text. The change was more than symbolic. It meant the end of thousands of railroad jobs, as conductors and brakemen were reassigned, retrained, or forced into early retirement. Unions fought for retraining and no layoff guarantees, eventually securing a 2-year transition program for displaced crew members. But the tide was turning. States that once held out, like Texas and California, repealed their final caboose mandates by 1985 and 1987, clearing the last legal hurdles. For many railroaders, the loss felt personal. The caboose had always been a watchtower, a shelter, and a home. Now, with the stroke of a pen, it was replaced by a silent box of circuits. The debate over safety and oversight continued, but the rules were changed. The caboose was no longer required by law, and its absence left a mark that no amount of efficiency could erase. Across the country, retired cabooses now stand as living reminders of railroading's human side. At the B&O Railroad Museum in Baltimore, volunteers keep a 1915 wooden caboose in working order, rolling it out for school groups and history tours. In Sacramento, the California State Railroad Museum runs a stainless steel Union Pacific caboose on demonstration tracks, its interior restored to show the daily life of a crew on the move. The Illinois Railway Museum operates a 1938 cupola car, while the Tennessee Valley Railroad Museum's restored Southern Railway caboose still carries visitors through the Smokies. Each of these institutions relies on teams of volunteers, retired railroaders, hobbyists, and students who handle everything from brake repairs to repainting. Their work preserves not just hardware, but the memory of camaraderie, vigilance, and tradition that defined the caboose era. For many, these rolling artifacts offer a tangible connection to a time when the end of every train belonged to its crew. Railroads now trust a digital signal, sent every few seconds, to confirm that a mile-long train is still intact. Yet this leap in efficiency brings its own risks. In 2025, federal cybersecurity officials warned that most end-of-train devices transmit unencrypted data, leaving brake controls vulnerable to outside interference. The advisory noted that a false command could trigger an emergency stop or even disable brakes entirely. Those were risks that were once unthinkable with a human crew watching from the rear. The legacy of the caboose lingers in this debate. Technology has streamlined operations, but the question remains whether absolute reliance on automation can ever fully replace human judgment and vigilance that once rode at the end of every train. Today, sensors run where crews once watched. Efficiency wins on the balance sheet, but questions about safety and lost vigilance persist. The caboose endures as a symbol of what's left behind when progress moves faster than reflection. Some traditions vanish, others echo in every whistle that fades into memory.